Hey y'all, Claudia from the Wee Garden Homestead here. Welcome to the sewing room. This quilt top is finished. Now, let's go make a scrappy back for it and see if we can get it quilted and bound up and get a done stamp on it. Thanks so much. Today I am piecing it back to the Blue and White Stars quilt. So I have sorted out some of my whatever I've got left of the blue scraps that I used. Some of them I just used up completely, and I think I've got one or two in here that I did not use in the quilt, like this one I don't think I did. But anyway, I'm gonna pull out first, because I want to do scrappy binding. I'm gonna take the big pieces and I'm gonna cut binding for that, and I need 12. If I do half a width of fabric, I need 12 2.5-inch strips. So I'm going to do that. And then I've got a bunch of these that are cut, that are already cut at 5 or 5.5 inches. I'm going to put those all together end to end. Some of them are, that one I might have to cut. Some of them are long and some of them are just, that's like that. I think that's all I had left of that fabric, and I might have a little more of this one, but it's already cut to that width. I mean, this one I've got more of this, but that one's already cut to that width. And then this one I'm just going to put them end to end. Maybe this one I'll cut to that because this is all I have left. I'm just going to put them end to end and see if that gets me across the quilt. And then I'm going to go to the next size up that I have already cut, which would be these, which are these are 9 inches. I'll put those together and see if they go all the way across, and then I'll go up to the next size and the next size and the next size, and then I'll have just patchwork strips just willy-nilly all the way across until I have enough to fill the quilt. If I run out of these scraps, I do have the blue with the white polka dots that I used on the dog, the Going to the Dogs quilt, that I'll use to fill in the rest. So that's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. Oh my goodness, this kitty. So I just came in to work on this backing, this blue backing, and this is what I got here. Luckily this blue quilt is for me, and I don't mind the cat hairs too much. I just don't have the heart to make her move. Hi, baby. Hi, pretty, pretty. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Y'all, I just about got this whipped. So, I started with the smaller pieces, and that was this row here. These were narrower, but they were longer. And that was this one here. A couple smaller pieces in there. You can see I just cut them all to the same width and then put them together however long they were. So, and then as my pieces got bigger, my rows got a little wider. So there's another one. I think that I'm going to put the narrow ones in the middle and work my way out. So there's another one. This one is just two. This one is just two. It's this one and this one. They're very similar. And then this one has a couple of small pieces on one end and then just the solid on the other. And then this one has just a couple pieces in the middle and then two wider ones. And then these got a little wider. These were more like 10 inches, I think. This one just has, this one just has two colors. And yep. And then this one has, what's this one got? This one just has 2, and then this one has 3. So that's what I'm going to do. This was quite this back. This is a quilt back. This back was quite the stash buster. I'm a little sad because this one This is the last of this one. That is it. No more of this one unless I find a couple small scraps somewhere. This was one of Mom's. She used it in a quilt. She used it in her kitchen curtains that are now hanging in my kitchen. It's in a little bit of the front, and it's got a big spot in the back. So I just need to lay these out and put them together. I mean, there was no, as far as the patterns, the colors, and the fabrics went, there was no rhyme or reason. Some of the ones I liked better, I might have put towards the middle, but I didn't. There really was not a lot of rhyme or reason to this. So I think I'm going to start. I just made sure that they were longer than the quilt was wide. So I think I'm going to start with that one in the middle, and then these two narrow ones on either side of it, kind of like that. And I don't know how much of that you can see. And then this one. And then I'll go with the 2 8-ish ones, and then I'll go with the bigger ones. And it should come out long enough. Otherwise, I'll make another row. I do still have some big pieces, some big prints left. Let me scoot that down a little bit so you can see a little better. So I do have a few bigger pieces left, but that I can use if I need to. But yeah, that was quite the stash buster. This was a big, huge portion of my blue scraps. So I'm going to go get these together, and I'll show you when they're done. I also, before I started with this, from some of the bigger pieces, or even some of the smaller pieces, I cut the binding, and I already have that all put together. I think it's long enough. I'll double check it. I do have a few more scraps if I need to make it a little longer, but once the quilt is together, I'll double check it. But yeah, I'm gonna go make a sandwich. Okay, this back is all put together. I actually have the quilt hanging behind it because I wanted to make sure that it was going to be big enough. So the quilt comes down here and about here. So it's definitely wide enough. Now on the bottom, grab that. I've got maybe 3 inches. I mean, that's where the quilt was hanging. I just pinched them together and grabbed it. So I've got maybe 3 inches, and they're even on the top. So that gives me about 1.5 inches on the top and the bottom. It's going to be close, but I think I can make it work. I'm a little nervous, but I think I can make it work. Okay, I have this quilt all laid out on the bed, and I have maybe 2 inches here. I cut the batting to exactly where the edge of the binding is, the backing is. So I have maybe 2 inches on this side. I've got maybe 1 inch here, or 1.25 inches. I'm going to make it work because that's what I got. It's not worth it to me to add another row on, and then I've got plenty on this side. So I'm going to spray base this and get it to the sewing machine to do some quilting. Okay, this guy is quilted. The batting that I use, the quilting should be, I think it's between, oh no. So I caught a little bit of this backing here. easy to fix. I'm not going to rip out that quilting. I'm just going to take my scissors, my sharp scissors, and I'm going to cut real close to that quilting line. And then when I pull, it'll come right off. But anyway, I'm going to wait until after I trim it. So the way I was taught to bind a quilt by my mom, who was a great quilter, was to, after you quilt it, to take the binding and let me find an end. Sew it along the edge to the top and then trim it and then wrap it and hand sew it. Now I don't hand sew bindings anymore. I have enough trouble with my thumbs. I don't need to do that little fine work. It's okay, Ari. I know. You need me to move that chair? We have a thunderstorm raging outside and the big dog is a little bit scared. So if she jiggles the camera, I'm sorry. So you can lay there. You can lay over here by me too if you want. So what I do is I do a machine binding. And because if I sew it here and then trim it and wrap it to the back, the stitching from the back quite often shows here. So I trim it first and then I put the binding on the back like this, and then it wraps around and I top stitch it on the front. When I top stitch it on the front, yes, it may show on the back and it won't show much because I'm going to use this light blue that I used for the quilting. But it's usually just right inside the line, and I'll show you when I'm finished. But first I've got to trim it. So I start in a corner, doesn't matter which corner. I know, baby. It's okay. And I am going to go back and pull this off too. Hopefully that's the only spot that happened. So I start in a corner with my big square. And see where it stretched a little bit. It's not quite lines anymore. That's okay. I'll just trim them off. And I usually try to use a line of stitching to square it up. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to go right off the edge. And then I'm going to go like this. I will come back and fix that spot where I caught that. I don't know if this is the, and I'm using air quotes here, right way. This is how I do it. And if it's not the right way, then I didn't quite make it through that backing there that was hanging over. If it's not the right way, it's whatever, you know. I'm happy with it, and it's going to be done. I've never had a quilt come back and it would come back with a gift and say, hey, you did the binding wrong. And I'm not entering any quilt shows anytime soon, so I do it my way. I do it my way. Look at that, more scraps. There we go. Ready to go back to the sewing machine? And here, I'll show you a little better. Where did I put my binding? So if I see if I can zoom in there a little bit. So if I sew my binding to the back like this on a 1/4 inch seam and then wrap it back like that, and then I just stitch right along the edge here. So that's what's next. this quilt is completely finished. It is sandwiched, it is quilted, it is bound, it's done. I'm gonna get outside, do a quilt drop for you, and get some pictures and post those at the end, as always. Thanks so much for joining me on this. Let me see how big this is. I can't remember. Let's see. It's about 52 by about 62. It's 52 by 62. I remember measuring it so that I knew how much binding I needed. So it's 52 by 62. It's a nice slap size. It's nice for snuggling on the couch. I'm in love with it. This one was for me. Salty wanted me to do another star quilt. So this one we're keeping. And I'm going to go ahead and get my pictures. Y'all don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment, please. I love to see them. And you know what? Share with your friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, let's start again.